Good afternoon, Father Davis George.
Good afternoon, Sanjay.
So nice to see you. We all have been waiting for this moment.
Good to see you after many, many years. A great joy to know you are into such film industry and into such creative, innovative media interactions and production. I am so proud of you.
Father, what's your daily routine like?
I normally get up around 5 o'clock, then get ready and go for a walk, maybe about 45 minutes to 1 hour. Come back, and if there is time, I do a little bit of yoga, and then get ready and go for mass. And after that, I come back and maybe I will continue with a little more of yoga. Then I sit for meditation for about 20 minutes. And after that, 9 o'clock, I start with the office work. And then it goes. Now these days, we have almost 1 or 2 webinars every day. Now 2 o'clock, I have an inaugural session of another 2 days webinar. We are having 2 colleges under the same roof. I would love to welcome you here. We have an engineering college on the right side, and to left side, we have College of Education. We have both the colleges, and I look after as the director both these colleges as well as a church. We have also what is known as Divine Mercy Church. I just started the construction of it. So I keep busy till in the evening, and then of course if I get little time, I go for a walk or a game, shuttle badminton, and with that I end the day by around 7:30. I come back to my room.
Do you think this long distance learning is here to stay? Is it going to work? Is it practical?
I think in the given situation, as far as I assess, in all probability this will continue for a year or even year or two. And within such a short time of these 2-3 months, I could see teachers as well as students, they plunge into action. I could never believe, we could have such resilience and bounce back and get to work. And that is what I see. So I think this will continue, and people will start learning in a bigger way, better way, probably. And I think all said and done, I see the Google Classroom, Google itself is a great teacher, probably better than many teachers. So you are able to interact, you are able to learn, you are able to, in few seconds, you are able to get to know everything. So even if tomorrow the situation is normal, I think students and teachers and even parents will get used to this new mode of learning.
Is it fair to compare the kids of 70s and 80s with the kids of 2020?
Not at all. It is never fair to compare, and it is a very important question you have asked. And we need to change the mindset. Even this has been a great learning for me. You have seen me in the early 80s onwards, and now we are dealing with the millennials, X generation, Y generation, Z generation or Z generation, and these generations have got their own characteristic features. And the other day I was discussing with some people, and I was telling them, the way we deal with them, we need to change our approach, attitude, and give them more space, more liberty. And their interests are varied. They are more creative, more innovative, more techno-savvy. And given the freedom, I think we need to have a paradigm shift in dealing with them. Yes.
Father, what is success according to you?
Yeah, this is another very, very deep question. Probably in the past, success meant lots of money. Success meant a big name. Success meant a big job. Success meant all what is material outside. I don't know whether I have related this story, but many times I have in assembly said, many years ago, they made a study of 7 most successful people of the world. and they were given a reception in Dover Beach Hotel in the States. The plates were with their names, band was there, the hotel was booked. Everybody bought up tickets just to see the 7 celebrities of the world, successful people. After 25 years, they took a survey of these 7 people, whom they gave such a standing ovation and big band and big dinner. And unfortunately, they found of these 7 giants, 7 most successful people, 7 wealthiest people of the world, almost 3 of them committed suicide, 2 of them became bankrupt, 1 was put in a jail, and third, for 7th one was living alone in an island in total depression. Something like this that has happened to these 7 people. And that is what is repeated today. So many successful film stars committing suicide. So many billionaires ending their life abruptly. The so-called successful people, the so-called worldly successful people, they're ending. So there is something more. I would strongly say there is something more to success than all these material possession, material accumulation, and material tags. Ultimately, success is an inside feeling, sense of contentment, sense of fulfillment, sense of equanimity of mind, sense of balance, sense of proportion and perception of life, the essentials of life, learning to live and celebrate life with the essence and the essentials of life. I think that is success. Success would mean more of an inside discovery than outside manifestations. And we need to address this problem. What exactly is success? And that's a very, very important question. And I do hope in the media and other sectors we will take up, and we need to have more soul-searching brainstorming and see what it is, so that children, particularly youth, and also parents, will change the entire concept of success.
Father, do you think we should start this at a very early age? As in, kids are being programmed for only success. There is no program for failure. So if he does not succeed, he does not know what to do. He just gives up.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you're telling, because it is a mindset that we are forming from early days. Even from the primary school itself, it's a mindset we are inculcating in the students. There are many stakeholders in this. You cannot have just one person, one group alone doing. We have children, we have teachers, and above all, we have parents, and the social milieu and the setup, the images we give, the stories we share, the narratives we make. The narratives we make in maybe film industry, maybe in serials, we seem to, I see that we seem to worship something which is superficial success. We are not able to give weightage, and we are not able to highlight people who have failed, people who have fallen, fumbled, faltered, and failed. Such people have come up again. That entire formation of mind, I think we need to revisit. And certainly families have a lot to do. Parents have a lot to do. Parents have a lot to do. It's just the family expectations. And you see, many times we push the child to the wall to such an extent, he or she commits suicide, ends up in total depression. And the school curriculum and the college curriculum and the syllabus, I think we need, as Delhi government probably has rightly introduced, and Harvard and some of the foreign universities have introduced what is known as this HQ, happiness quotient. I think we need to focus on this. End of the day, what is needed is to be contented and happy and feel good You have done your best. That's it. Success is that. So we need to redefine these sort of things and make, you see, alone, this is a multi-pronged approach we need to have. And we need to do this. I'm glad you are picking up some topics which are most crucial for the survival of the entire society.
Father, there's a suicide happening every 40 seconds in this world. People don't want to discuss depression. It starts in the family. You can discuss your headache, you can discuss a stomach ache, you can discuss your back problem, but you cannot discuss mental issues. It is still a taboo.
Yeah, it is a very, very serious issue, depression. And this again goes back to our concept of success, which you earlier asked. People tend to get depressed for nothing. I'm depressed because somebody spoke ill of me. I'm depressed because I wanted to do this and I didn't succeed. I'm depressed. I expected to get a high first class in the exam and I didn't get. And people, people are looking for shortcuts to tackle depression, taking drugs, taking alcohol, get into bad company, get into bad habits, feeling high, just press the button, you feel high, depression is over, but it doesn't solve the problem. So depression is, and you rightly pointed out, the percentage of people committing suicide is unbelievably high, and probably it is higher among educated people, the so-called successful people, the so-called elites of the society. And I think we need to focus on mental wellness. We must prioritize what exactly life is all about. And, as a principle, I have always insisted, you need to have physical exercise. That is one root cause. Secondly, one should not keep oneself busy at night with all, what shall I say, depressive stories.
Absolutely.
One should be able to go to bed with a very, very soothing things. Next, we must learn to and teach people to count blessings, and develop an attitude of gratitude. Is missing in our Indian society, in the world over actually. We don't have that attitude of gratitude. Half the problem will be over if you say, you see, I am breathing in oxygen free. I'm drinking water free. I'm walking on the earth free. Everything God has given free. And that sense of gratitude is not there. The next is probably we need to have some time for oneself. All the time we are busy with others. All the time mind is busy with the self-talk. Oh, I, me, my ego, my name, my prestige, my this, my that. We are living in a, what shall I say, in a make-believe world. And that when it crumbles down, I am depressed. So one need to have some time for meditation, one to have proper diet, one to have proper sleep, and above all, should have a happy company. Birds of the same feather flock together. So if you have the biggest association, normally I say, the biggest association is the association of grumblers. It's online membership. You just start grumbling, you get a lot of people and lot of takers. So we need to have people who are aggressively positive with good stories.
Is this pandemic giving a message to the world?
Certainly pandemic is giving a big message. I don't think in the history of the world, at least I have never read, I have never heard that there could be a pandemic, global pandemic, when everybody, hi-fi, everyone, with all the technology and power and money and influence at their beck and call, all have been brought to their knees. Just knees. Invisible virus have brought all the visible people and and the religions back to their knees. I think this pandemic certainly is in the bigger plan of God. Certainly, because nothing can happen without His knowledge. If all the planets and the entire universe, evolving universe, it's in place, there should be something that is part of the bigger picture. And I would seriously think, now, for example, we are breathing better oxygen. There is less carbon emission of carbon dioxide. Families who never met each other, children never knew who is their father, many times. And mother, there was no family time. Now they are meeting each other, having time with each other. People who believed in junk food and people who believed only in showing off, come down. People who are absolutely certain of their life, they are confronted with the uncertainty of life. People who knew that we are in control, no. Now we are focusing on developing immunity system, developing right attitude, developing resilience. I think you can count a huge number of blessings and huge number of lessons learned because of the pandemic. And I really thank God there was this pandemic, because it's time that we slow down. We slow down and get to know what is life. Get to know what is life.
Father, death is the only real in this world. That is the only reality. But still people are afraid of death.
Just the other day I was reading a quote from Krishnamurti, J. Krishnamurti. People are not really frightened of death. People are frightened of losing the known. This is what I know. I am going to lose this. Okay. So that I would think uncertainty of what is going to happen. That is what ultimately the only reality that levels every single one. Going across the boundaries of nation, caste, creed, religion, everything. There's one leveling machine. That is death. Death. And people, I would think we all should become humble that there is an end to this show. It's going to end. And whatever we accumulate, we have to leave it and go. So fear is natural. I think fear of death or fear of losing the certainties of life, I think it is human and natural. And it is important that when we are alive, we grow, we grapple with the reality of death, the mystery of death, the certainty of death, the uncertainty of time, and that will make us do a better way of living. End of the day, I think more than the death, it's what you have done when you are alive. We live only once, and we die only once. And fools die many times because they are not serious about life.
Father, what is true love?
I would love all the Alosians and all your viewers to check up my WhatsApp status. And for the last 5 days, now that is uploaded also on my Facebook. All this, I started from the 1st of May, so up to now. But what I'm talking to you now is this question of love, because the last 5 days till yesterday, I was dealing with this topic on love. Okay, that's surprising that you brought up this topic. I was dealing with exclusively this topic of love. So yesterday was the last day, and love is the only thing that matters. Nothing else. Nothing else in life. And it can make us alive. It can make us die a dozen times per day. The absence of it. And love is, I told in the first day, all of us have an emotional tank. Right here, emotional tank. When it is full, we are going around happily. When it is empty, just like you may have the best car, the costliest car, but you put the key into it, and the ignition key is put, or you touch the button, but you find out it is only making sound. It is not starting because there is no fuel. The fuel level has gone completely empty. So it only makes sound. It's same with when there is no love. Why people are angry? Why people are rebellious? Why people are retaliating? Why people are proud, conceited, arrogant, stubborn? Lack of love. Lack of love. So I dealt with that, and then I dealt with the 5 love languages, because love is actually, in the Bible, it is given, let your love be not in word and in speech, but in deed and in truth. I would like to repeat. It's a marvelous sentence. Let your love be not in word and speech. I love you, I'll die for you, I kiss you, I hold you, without you, my life is ended. And the next day, he or she will not be there anymore. So it's very fleeting moments of infatuation or romance. It doesn't last. So that's not a real love. Maybe some prelude to love. Prelude to love. So the Bible said that let your love be not in word or in speech, but in deed and truth. And I explained that we have in St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians. I would recommend everybody to read, irrespective of religion. Nothing to do with the conversion, nothing to do with anything, but just a masterpiece. Masterpiece. What is love? Just the answer is there. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love doesn't keep grudge. Love doesn't boast. It's a series of verbs given. This is love. This is love. Love is patient. Sanjay is patient. Davis is kind. Davis is tender-hearted. I don't keep grudge. This is love. Gary Chapman, he has written a wonderful book called 5 Love Languages. I would recommend to all people, particularly couples and young people, because many divorces take place. There are many broken families. One reason is they don't know what is love. They have dreamt of love. It's just going around the bush, dancing and having honeymoons and a lot of trips. End of the day, I have seen, as a priest, I have blessed many marriages. I have seen many broken marriages. I have seen many broken families. I have counseled many people on this. So in this book, 5 Love Languages, he speaks about there is a language difference between husband and wife. If I say chung chung chong, you don't understand. Did you understand what it is?
No.
Chung chung chong. So a business executive went to China, and his friend was in the ICU, about to die. And with great permission, he flew all the way to China to meet this gentleman. And with great difficulty, they gave permission. And he was alone in the ICU. And he went near him. And as he went near, he said, chung chung chong. So he also didn't know what he was talking. Once again, he said, chung chung chong. And the third time he said, and he breathed his last. Immediately, doctor came, and all were amazed how it happened. Then they asked this man, what did he last say? So with great difficulty, he remembered and said, chung chung chong. Oh my God, they said. He was telling you again and again, you are standing on the oxygen pipe. Move from here. So we don't understand. He didn't understand the language. So Gary Chapman says there are 5 love languages. First is words of affirmation, encouragement, kind words, appreciation. Very understandable. If you appreciate me, Sanjay, oh father, this is good. I tell Sanjay, you are looking awesome, man. I'm so proud. I'm so proud to see that you are in the film industry and doing many video shows. I'm so happy. You feel loved, right? In the second language, he says, is quality time. We need to give husband to wife, children to parents. We need to give quality time, family time, prayer time, meals time, which pandemic has given, Corona has given. This is one of the specific blessing. Corona just gave time. Corona just gave time. Yeah, yeah. And the third language of love is gift giving. Gift giving. Gift giving. When we give gift, we remember that it's not the amount. It is a token, love, thoughtfulness, gift giving. And the biggest gift is the gift of self. The gift of self. The fourth is acts of service. Acts of service. So when you serve someone, oh Father, can I help you? Oh Sanjay, wonderful man, can I just do this? Oh, thank you so much. And so we understand acts of service. It has been said the most successful marriage is between two servants in love. And the most disastrous marriage is two bosses in love. The marriage breaks down. And the fifth love language he speaks is physical touch. Children, when they're cuddled and they're kissed and hugged, they grow up. When you shake hand with a person whom you love, you really shake hand with warmth. But when you don't like a person, you will just, for namesake, you will extend the hand. When you hug a person whom you really love, you'll hug. When you don't like, just namesake, you just do it. So there is a lot of truth in this. Love basically is a decision, It is not just a fleeting moment. Love is a decision. It's marvelous. Jesus says, Christianity has not been probably understood, but all Colossians are part of the Christian setup. Jesus is a great man, great fellow, great. Probably many have not understood or heard enough. You see, he says, by this the world will know you are my disciples, if you love one another as I have loved you. Not by wearing cross or any other things. If you love one another as I have loved you. How did he love? On the cross, he offered himself. So basically, love is self-sacrifice. You sacrifice your ego. You go out of your comfort zone and be thoughtful and loving and encouraging and serving and appreciating and being kind to one another. That's love.
Father, one message to all your fans.
Yeah, I must tell you that I love you. And I must tell all of you I'm proud of you. And I must tell all of you, over the years I have met many students and many people, those who have listened to my talk and others, and I feel so proud. I feel so blessed. I feel so grateful to all of you. And I want to tell all of you, I used to give a lot of captions in the school assembly. East or West, Colossians are the best.
Absolutely.
You are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. I want to tell all of you, God has made you as God's masterpiece. You are nothing less than God's masterpiece. And you are born to win. You are born to win. And you are born to make a difference in today's society. You are born to make a difference. I would love all of you to make a difference wherever you are. Wherever you are, make a difference and make this world a better place.
We all look up to, a hero. And you were and you will always be a hero.
I am so grateful to you. Your kindness over the years, many students, the kind words they speak and they do, it's amazing. And I can only thank all of you and thank God for this great opportunity and privilege He has given me to travel with so many wonderful students who are great, who are doing a great job today in their own field of activity. and God bless you all.
It was a wonderful session. Thank you, Father, for coming on the show. Thank you so much.
I'm so grateful to you, Sanjay, for giving me this honor and privilege to have this conversation with you.